Welcome to Matters Financial, Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you as ever for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Trust the weekend was good. Hannah came down to me on Sunday morning and said, "Dad, did it rain last night?" And I wasn't sure myself. It felt very fresh. And she said, and I asked her why. And she said, "Darling, Dad, it smelt of petrichor." And I thought, well, that's good. Because of course I'd sort of tried to teach her the word a few times. Home thoughts. One of London's most iconic landmarks, Tower Bridge, lit up at night. This is from the Atlantic. Very attractive photographs. One of London's iconic skyscrapers covered in mist at dawn. And then situated south of the River Thames, the Shard, Elephant and Castle, and St George's Wharf Tower are seen through an orange haze. The Atlantic again, Jason Hook's spot. I like this, Roger Federer. I hope to see you back here, but if not, that was a wonderful run. Indeed, he's a wonderful tennis player and has done so extraordinarily well. Took this photograph from the 14th floor yesterday in the afternoon, and if you are from Nairobi, I'm looking towards Parklands, and it's quite interesting to see the lay of the land. And beyond, you can see the lungs of the city, the Karura forest. "How do you do it?" said Night. "How do you wake up and shine?" "I keep it simple," said Light, "one day at a time." On that note, this is a photograph of the sunrise over Lake Mickelson on Mount Kenya. The photo is by Mungai Photos. Have a listen to this little clip of Spinal Tap, and it's a fantastic movie. I'll tell you about it in a moment. If you get a chance, please listen to this. It's 4 minutes long, and I'll come back to it in a second. Ivanka Trump saw fit to tweet this photograph out on Saturday as the US airports were clogged up. And generally we saw a situation of kind of chaos at the airports in particular. Didn't go down too well. Political reflections. Trump is, in my view, a bamboozler. I think he's got people rushing around and he's hit the ground running. I'm going to come back to a piece I wrote over the weekend. Philip Gurevich. This sad little cluster of Trump supporters at LAX today was outnumbered about 10,000 to 6. Nuclear conflict is just one of the 7 different ways the world could meet its end in the near future. My piece over the weekend was POTUS. Donald Trump turns the volume up to 11. It's been a whirlwind first week for President Trump. The volume has been turned up to 11, and the first week reminded me of a 1984 movie called This Is Spinal Tap. The phrase up to 11 was coined in a scene from the 1984 rockumentary This Is Spinal Tap by the character Nigel Tufnell. In this scene, Nigel gives the rockumentary's director Marty DiBergi a tour of his stage equipment. While Nigel is showing Marty his Marshall guitar amplifiers, he points out one in particular whose control knobs all have a highest setting of 11, unlike standard amplifiers whose volume settings are typically numbered from 0 to 10. Believing that this numbering increases the highest volume of the amp, he explains it's one louder, isn't it? When Marty asks why the 10 setting is not simply set to be louder, Nigel hesitates before responding blankly again. These go to 11. What is even more curious is trying to sift the political impetus behind the argument around fake news and Kellyanne Conway's alternative facts which can be established in an instant. The impetus seems to be best explained by Steve Bannon, who said, "I am a Leninist. Lenin wanted to destroy the state, and that's my goal too. I want to bring everything crashing down, and destroy all of today's establishment. Mr. Bannon has been appointed to the National Security Council. In the first week of President Trump's administration, he has tightened border security and immigration and is set to build his cherished wall. The administration has even blocked entry for some with bona fide green cards. Trump has withdrawn from TTIP, pivoted to Taiwan, and had his Secretary of State lob a few verbal, for now, missiles at China. We're going to have to send China a clear signal that first, the island building stops, and second, your access to those islands is not going to be allowed. Mohamed El-Arian says Trump's economic model is targeting higher growth and greater job creation using what can be called an import substitution plus approach to policy making, together with elements of an industrial policy. The above is not an exhaustive list, but a snapshot. The question then arises as to how Trump will interact with Africa. President George Bush, much loved by Michelle Obama, pushed the dial big time for Africa, especially with his AGOA and PEPFAR programs, and many Africans still remark on the irony that Bush actually delivered more for Africa than President Obama. President Obama has cranked up Power Africa amongst many other initiatives. US trade with Africa clocks about $100 billion, half of China's trade with Africa, and in fact, Africa's biggest trading partner is Europe. You would not know that because the Europeans never mentioned that fact. I found it interesting that the incoming US administration saw fit to announce $418 million of weapons sales to Kenya earlier in January. Given the early focus of this administration, I think this announcement is a big signal about the shape of the Africa-Trump administration engagement. We are back to a counter-terrorism focus. The recent rehabilitation of Omar al-Bashir is another clue. President Zuma is out of the loop entirely for now, after turning down an invitation to meet with Donald Trump in New York, when Trump was still campaigning and considered a rank outsider. The US and its US AFRICOM has been advancing rapidly across the continent. We can surely bet the House that this advance will now be turned to 11 as well. Another point to note is that Kenya, like other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, receives as much as 50% of its inward remittances from North America. It is estimated that more than half of our people are not properly documented. Scenes that we have witnessed over the weekend at US airports does not bode well. The Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs is the key Africa appointment in any US administration. Names that spring to mind are the likes of Chester Crocker, Jendai Frazier, Johnny Carson. The slot has yet to be filled by Donald J. Trump and will surely set the tone. The New Yorker's John Cassidy characterized Trump as a fragile, erratic, television-obsessed snowflake. Africa needs to engage with Trump and try and shape that engagement, because otherwise it might just be like trying to catch a great ball of fire. The Times of Israel tweeted, Trump defends Muslim ban. World is a horrible mess. John Prescott, in a very droll tweet, Lady and the Trump, there may be trouble ahead. The FT was talking about Trump's whirlwind week. And this was interesting. The current president seems unwilling and uninterested to respect the bipartisan norms of presidential action. If this week is a harbinger of the future, the entire globe is going to get a case of ADD, attention deficit disorder. New Yorker called him a fragile, erratic, television-obsessed snowflake. Tammy Laren tweets, powerful photo, we are fortunate to have a man of God back in the Oval Office. The man behind Trump is, of course, Steve Bannon. Put up his photograph. Bill Kristol tweeted, Priebus, Conway and Spicer sent on to Sunday shows to defend architects Bannon and Miller nowhere to be seen. The power stays in the shadows. The New Yorker has an article, Trump's Information Wars, which is pretty interesting. Take a look at that. He apparently foresees a permanent campaign energized by televised rallies and daily tweets so that the president may evolve into a kind of digital age Mussolini light. As I said severally, I was quoting a US Army quarterly from 1997, and in that it says one of the defining bifurcations of the future will be the conflict between information masters and information victims. This information warfare will not be couched in the rationale of geopolitics, the author suggests, but will be spawned, like any Hollywood drama, out of raw emotions, hatred, jealousy, and greed. Emotions rather than strategy will set the terms of information warfare struggles. 5th of December, I wrote a piece where I was quoting Don DeLillo, "We have a deviate tomahawk. We copy, there's a voice." The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pigeon, is a melange of repartee, laughter, and song, with the quality of purest, sweetest sadness. Somehow, we are picking up signals from radio programs of 40, 50, 60 years ago. I have no doubt that Putin ran a seriously 21st century, predominantly digital program of interference, which amplified the Trump candidacy. POTUS Trump was an ideal candidate for this kind of support. Trump is a linguistic warfare specialist. You look at the names he gave his opponents: Crooked Hillary, Lying Ted, Little Marco, Low Energy Jeb. These were devastating and terminal. President Trump began a new era of diplomacy with Russia on Saturday, as he and President Putin conducted, and this is the important piece, an hour-long telephone call, and vowed to repair relations. Sir Mo Farah, tweeted, "The Queen made me a knight. Donald Trump made me an alien." The dollar is heading for its 5th weekly loss, the worst streak since May 2015. Currency markets: euro dollar 107.12, dollar index 100.56, Japanese yen 114.70, Swiss franc 0.9992. The pound 125.62, the Australian dollar 0.7547, India rupee 68.106, South Korean won 1178.85, the Rial 314.10, Egyptian pound 18.7227, and the Rand 13.4710. Commodity markets: gold back below 1200, last at 1192. I haven't been bullish about it all year, and I continue to look at my Bitcoin, long Bitcoin, short gold trade. OPEC, this is from Javier Blas, oil investors build biggest ever bullish net long WTI position. Could be trouble ahead. Have a look at the crude oil chart, and last few days we're at $52.92. Remember my very bold call about $60 being a cap throughout this year. The biggest overseas buyer of US corn, the country's top crop, is Mexico. Have a look at the data. This is how much Americans pay for sugar protections, and look at the spread that they pay extra all over the top. Turkish lira chart from Holga back to record lows. As I said, on the 9th of January, the Turkish lira finds itself at the epicenter of the Syrian blowback. Turkey is cut to junk by Fitch, citing political developments that have undermined economic performance and institutional independence. While financial markets were focusing on Fitch, S&P surprises to the downside, cuts Turkey's BB outlook to negative. Trump aides as easing Russia sanctions under consideration. Russian assets have been very strong in 2017. Sub-Saharan Africa, African heads of state gather in the Ethiopian capital on Monday for a 2-day African Union summit. Morocco's bid for readmission is on the cards. 5 candidates are vying to replace Dlamini Zuma as head of the commission, including the Kenyan Foreign Minister Amina Mohammed. Ahmed Salem, who is in Dubai and works for Tineo Intelligence, it says a leader that's going to be appointed inherits problems that Zuma was not able to address. The AU was always a little too late when they responded to crises. There was no voice on any of the crisis issues. Adama Barrow obviously is now firmly ensconced in State House. That's a positive development. South African all shares up 4.58% so far this year. Strong start, as has the currency dollar rand. I'll put up a 6-month chart. It's sort of repelled around the 13.25 area, but still firm. Egyptian pound 18.7227. Nigeria's central bank hits out at unpatriotic policy critics. Intelligence reports at the disposal of the bank reveal the involvement of some unpatriotic elements funding the push to have the Central Bank of Nigeria and the federal government reverse its foreign exchange policy. A spokesman said in a statement, self-centered individuals who have failed to assail our patriotic position have resorted to the sponsorship of serial propaganda to misinform and mislead the public on the objectives of our policies. The central bank will continue to ration foreign exchange and ensure that the masses of our country's low-income earners are protected from the vagaries of high naira depreciation. They have to fold their hands. The only issue is when. The Nigerian all shares down 2.03% this year. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 4.67% this year. Although food price inflation in East Africa remains elevated, a repeat of the 2011-2012 food inflation hump seems unlikely. That's Citibank. Al-Shabaab says it killed 66 Kenyan soldiers in Somalia. The number is being disputed, as they always tend to be. But it does not bode well, does it? We've seen an upsurge in Al-Shabaab recently. Car in General reported full-year earnings per share surged 192.105%. Those results are at the bottom of rich wrap-ups if you care to take a look. The shilling a little bit firm at 103.725. This is post the news from the IMF, which was positive. Nairobi all shares down 8.29% this year and at 44-month lows. And the NSE 20 is down 11.74% so far this year and at levels not seen since 2008. Once again, thank you for stopping by.